Okay, so welcome to the Su25t Frogfoot in DCS World. On a lovely day in Krasnodar here, we're going to take you through a simple strike mission and hopefully give you an idea of what DCS can offer without spending any money at all. So we're currently on a multiplayer server running a mission called Krasnodar Ground Attack, where you can spawn in a variety of different tasks, all air to ground obviously, and we've just spawned one in. I will replay the briefing for you now.
Attention all aircraft, we have just received word that one of our drones has discovered a large gathering of units next to the train tracks just north of the lake between the two towns. It appears that they are staging for pickup and shipment to the front lines. We need you to destroy all of the assets at the location, including the outpost.
Okay, so we're going to get the aircraft started up. We've already armed up with a load of large unguided rockets and a couple of TV guided missiles, and this should be enough to put a fairly large dent in the enemy formation. We're just going to get started up. Really easy. You just turn your battery on and that will give you electrical power to the aircraft. As you can see, everything's coming alive. Wait a couple of seconds and then all you have to do is activate the left engine start and then the right engine start. You'll see these green lights appear up front and the needles will start to move. Quite important, you don't push the throttle forward until these two needles down here on the engine RPM gauge have stabilised, otherwise you could cause an engine fire and then you'll have to respawn. It's also important to know that you can't ask the ground crew to rearm or refuel you in these aircraft from Flaming Cliffs 3 unless your engine's RPM is 0. In fully clickable modules, so most DCS aircraft, you can rearm and refuel while the engine's running. But there you go, the engine's stabilised. We'll just close the canopy and then we'll just get taxiing. You don't have to worry about parking brakes on these, they're already ready to go. So we'll catch up to you when we're at the runway. Just got to take this one really carefully. The front nose wheel is very, very stiff and it likes to wobble about, so you just got to be really careful and be very slow and gentle taxiing the aircraft, otherwise you could damage your landing gear quite easily and then you have to start all over again, which isn't particularly fun. Anyway, I'm going to taxi on out here and I'll catch up with you in a bit. Okay, so here we are on runway 27, all ready for takeoff. I've turned my brakes on, as you can see from the pressure going up there. You can see it fluctuates as you take them off. For some reason the brake pedals aren't actually animated. And we're going to wind up to full throttle and take off. If you look in the HUD, in the top left is our airspeed indicator. We're going to be looking for 330 to 350 before we start to pull the nose up, and then on the right with the P is indicating that we have a radar altimeter of 0. On the right hand side of the HUD you can see a little 0 with an arrow pointing inwards. That will tell us if we're descending or increasing altitude. We'll see as we climb in a minute. So full throttle, just passing 270 kilometers per hour now, aiming for 330 to 350. Here we go. So now I'm going to start gently pulling back on the stick, and here we go, we're airborne just in time as well, because that was the end of the runway. Gear up immediately and just climb out, gentle steady 10 to 15 degrees. Then we're passing 400 knots, pull the flaps up, and away we go, we're flying. So now our target is off roughly to the west past a lake, so we're just going to climb up and turn to follow a heading looking for a heading tick of around 09 on the top there. As you can see, there's our runway behind us, and we'll just go hunting for this lake, and I'll catch up with you in a minute. So here we are on the F10 map. by pushing F10 you can get to this view. You can see we're now flying east towards this lake, and our target is at the northern edge of this lake. So we're going to fly toward the lake, then fly along the shoreline, and we should find our target just along a river coming out from the lake here. So here we go. Ease off our climb and ease off the throttles just a little bit, just to save some fuel. Our fuel gauge is down here, this green and red. Now interestingly, we are at full internal fuel, but those little white bars indicating our fuel load is still very low. That's a limitation with Soviet aircraft. Their fuel gauge doesn't change if you have external tanks fitted like you would in a Western aircraft, where you can select between your internal fuel and external tanks. The bar only fills up more if you have external tanks on these Soviet aircraft, so it looks like you have extremely low fuel, but in fact actually we're pretty much entirely full. We'll only really start to worry once we reach around 1500 kilograms of fuel. So you know, we've got plenty of time. Okay, now we're over the lake. We're getting relatively close to our target. We're going to fence in, so we're going to go into air-to-ground mode, and you can see at the bottom there we've got some green lights underneath that little picture of our aircraft, showing us which weapons we have selected. We want our TV guided weapons first, so push the change weapon button, and there they are. Now we need to turn the TV on by pushing the electro-optical switch. There we go, and now we have a targeting cursor up on the HUD, which we can move with our sensor select buttons, and then if we depress lock target, that will stabilise on the ground. Now we've got a little bit of a cheat mode here. You can see the red dots appearing in front of the screen. That's actually highlighting our targets on the ground. And now we'll zoom in. You can see that there is a tank there on the centre of the screen. We're going to put the little cross over him, so just like so. Oops, Daisy. Was giving us a lock there. There we go, so that's locked, and it looks like we're in range, so I'm just going to fire off rifle, and we'll see in a minute if that missile hits its target. It may be looking at the telephone pole in front of it, but you know, we'll see. So if you press F6 you can actually see the missile flying. Yep, it looks like it's going straight for that tank. There we go, that's one T-55 destroyed. So that's very good. That's one of the only two targets that can actually hurt us down there, so that's quite cool. Now we're going to reset the cursor to the middle of the screen. We're going to fly away just a little way and then turn back in and re-attack. There's a BRDM down there that can also shoot back up at us, and we have to get quite uncomfortably close while we're firing the rockets, so we're just going to deal with that with our big TV guided missile, and then we'll go and strafe with the rockets and the cannons. Here we are, rolling in again on a target. There we go, it's found a contrast. The MP on the middle of the screen tells us we're in range, along with the little arrow on the left hand side being between the two blocks. Now it's automatically switched to our rockets, which are much shorter range, so we're now out of range again, but our missiles going and flying along. Now we'll watch on the TV screen. Hopefully we'll have enough of an angle that we'll be able to see the missile hit. So hopefully that is actually the BRDM, otherwise we're going to be in trouble. Yep, good. And that's been hit and that's killed. So we can turn our TV off now and then set up for our rocket runs. Now when manoeuvring this aircraft you've got to be a little bit careful. It's not got a huge amount of energy from its engines. It's quite small and it's relatively heavy for its size. So you've just got to be gentle and make sort of slow sweeping turns, and just be aware that you know, it might take a little bit longer to do things than you think it might. We're not flying a high performance fighter jet. Gain some altitude and then turn back in on the target. Full throttle. Just peek over our shoulder here, see if we can spot visually where they are. Okay, so there are our targets down here. We want to line up so those two fires are in line with each other, and then we're going to strafe down the middle at those parked vehicles. So we're actually going to fly a little bit further away just to aid in our setup. Okay, so here looks good. The line roughly corresponds with that field margin as well, because there's a railway line running through it, so that's quite a good visual indicator to have. And we're just going to line up along that, and then we're going to fire a load of rockets. So where the rockets will land is indicated by the little circle in the HUD, and when we're in range, that arrow on the left hand side of the ladder will be between those two thick green bars. Just going to pull off the power just a little bit, we don't want to go racing in, but we do want a dive angle of a roughly 20 degrees or so for our best accuracy. As you can tell, the targets are well below that, as you can see on the ladder on the HUD. So we're at a good position. We're just going to move slightly over to the right just to line up nicely with those targets and the railway line. Now centre back up, so the CCIP indicator goes over target, more or less. And now we're going to pull the engines back to idle, wait a few more seconds, and then go into our dive. So here we go, and we're in range, squeeze the trigger. That's it, that's our set of rockets. I'm going to ease the power back on and pull up. And do a quick rollover. And have a look down there. Yep, there's an awful lot of fire, that's good. We've hit our target quite nicely. There's still one line of trucks that's neatly along that line. But I think we're going to do a strafe with our guns, and then we will return to base. Haven't got enough munitions to kill everything here, so we'll switch to guns by pushing the cannon key, and there you go, same as the rockets symbology, except now we actually have an ammunition counter in the bottom right, so it's 4 counts down in quarters, so 4 we're full. Should be a little bit lighter now, so the aircraft should respond a little bit better. Okay, so finish our roll in, line them up nice and neatly, and then it's just the same as the rockets. Put the CCIP pipper onto our target, going a little bit fast. We're going to pull the air brake out. Okay, and now we're going to pull out. Remember to push the air brake back in. Still got 3/4 of our ammunition left, so we'll take a pass at those parked trucks. Just remember to get plenty of air speed and distance between you and your target before doing that again, and a good amount of altitude as well, because when you're doing gun runs, it's very tempting to push back in very quickly, and then it's quite easy to crash. So just be very, very careful when you're using your guns. Right, here again, there's a line of trucks neatly in front of us. We're going to remember that the cannon's recoil will actually push the nose down as we fire, so we're going to aim at the other end of the trucks first. We're actually going to put our speed brake out. Try and go for a slightly steeper dive just for better accuracy with the guns. Getting close to being in range. Put Pipper there roughly. Okay, we're way too close. Pull up, speed brake in. Full throttle, brake off. Really got greedy there. If there were any ground targets capable of firing back at us, we would have probably been shot to pieces. So yeah, don't do that. But yeah, most of the targets down there are now on fire and cooking off, which is quite good. I'd call that a successful run for a run with only a few rockets and the gun. So we're going to RTB. We're also very low on ammunition, so we're going to go back to air to ground mode and navigate back to the airfield. The airfield, of course, is quite easy to find. It's just to the right hand side of this lake, so we'll just follow the right hand coastline here. There's another airfield immediately on the shores of the lake. We want one that's slightly further on from there in Krasnodar Centre itself. So that's our airfield in sight, just in front of us here. And you can see the runway stretching off. So we're going to line ourselves up and we're going to come in for a very long final easy approach rather than a big standard pattern. Putting the air brakes out a little bit just to aid things here. I can go back in and now flaps down. It's Shift F for landing flaps, so that load switches all the way down. It's quite important to use full landing flaps for this aircraft. It's otherwise quite difficult to land. Speed's coming off nicely. We're aiming for around about 270 kilometers per hour when we cross the threshold of the runway. Deploy our landing gear now. You can see the lights are illuminating there, so nose wheels down, and now all three are locked. That's good. Slowly letting the speed come back, raise the nose. Add on a little power. We're starting to slow down a little bit too much. Not very much though. Almost on it. There's no indicator to show you where you're going to touch down in this aircraft, so you've just got to go by eye a little bit. Looking okay, watching the radar altimeter come down. When we reach around about 5, we'll cut our engines to idle and flare. So there we go, cut our engines to idle, pull up. A little bit of a hard landing, wheel brakes on. We're under 250, so we can push the drag chute out. And we'll come quite rapidly to a stop. There we go. As we go to external view, you can see our drag chutes out, slowing our descent. Quite important, when you are landing, make sure you are under 250 kilometers an hour when you deploy the drag chutes, otherwise they'll go ripping off and your brakes won't be able to stop you. But we'll press P again to cut the drag chutes, and we'll just taxi to the parking area. The taxiway is behind us, so we'll just back taxi down the runway and then go and shut down. Okay, so now we've arrived at a appropriate hard standing. We'll shut the jet down. It's quite easy. All you have is left and right engine off, or both engine off, and then electrical power toggle to turn that off as well. There you go, so our electrical power's off. So now we can't tell when our RPM's 0, but it doesn't matter because we're not going to rearm here. So that's the entire flight there. We're just going to do a quick assessment of the damage that we've done using the F10 map. So again, we'll hit F10, have a quick look, select something down here, and then hit F7 to go to a close-up third-person view of it. You can see there's quite a lot of wrecks out here. There's only a couple of artillery pieces left, and most of the logistics has been destroyed, along with obviously their tanks, which we hit with our large guided missiles. Down here the accuracy on the gun wasn't particularly great. I was aiming for this entire line of 4 trucks and missed, but given I was being greedy and I shouldn't have really shot them in the first instance, that wasn't too bad. All of the large cargo transporters that were over here are all destroyed, so that's fine. So overall that was a pretty successful strike, especially now that we are back down on the ground. We'll look at our aircraft once more. As you can see, the drag chute's been popped out here. That will re-seal itself when you ask the ground crew to rearm and refuel you. Yeah, we'll go back to F1 cockpit and then we'll call it a day here. Thank you for watching.